Clara Capano is an international speaker, award-winning educator, best-selling author, and host of Women Winning Their Way and Being Productive. She is the founder and CHO, Chief Harmony Officer of Capano Speaking and Training, and the creator of the Candidly Success Method. With over 20 years in sales and leadership, her passion is in providing professionals with key strategies so they can work smarter and build their bottom line while supporting work-life harmony. Clara and I discussed today her story around understanding, recognizing burnout, and also redefining her success on her journey to becoming an entrepreneur. Her story is incredible, and you're not going to want to miss this episode. Let's get started. Welcome to the No Hesitations podcast, the show where restaurant leaders learn tools, tactics, and habits from the world's greatest operators. I'm your host, Kristen Marvin, with Solutions by Kristen. I've spent the last 2 decades in the restaurant industry and now partner with restaurant owners to develop their leaders and scale their businesses without wasting time and energy so they can achieve work-life balance and make more money. You can now engage with me on the show and share topics you'd like to hear about, leadership lessons you want to learn, and any feedback that you have. Simply click the link at the top of the show notes, and I'll give you a shout out on a future episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to connecting. All right, Clara, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm really excited to talk with you.
Good. I loved our initial conversation. I was so inspired by your story and cannot wait to share it with listeners. This is a little bit outside of the scope of what we normally talk about, which is restaurants, but your story is so in line with a lot of the concepts that I relate to and have gone through in my life with burnout and redefining success and your path to becoming an entrepreneur. So would love for you to let's just jump in, share your story. How did you become an entrepreneur?
Fantastic. And it's so funny. I think we are all so much more connected than we sometimes think we are when we start sharing these stories. So becoming an entrepreneur, honestly, happened, I'm not going to say by mistake, but I'll say by surprise. I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. For me, I thrive in routine, security, doing all those things. So I really thought for me, I was going to be the corporate girl. I had a big dream of being a corporate attorney on the 42nd floor of a big building in a big city and having all of those things. And, I spent a lot of time doing that, but I never really felt fulfilled because I always felt like I was sort of in this box. And then in 2004, I was actually in the realm of real estate, but I was on the leadership side of it. And I had an opportunity to get a certification in coaching, and I loved it. And that was sort of my first experience with really being able to deliver true impact to people. Mm-hmm. And I started to feel a drive towards that, yet being afraid, this whole thing of leaving the secure job with the paycheck and all of those. But I started to notice things were changing. The economy was changing. People who had had their jobs for years no longer had a job. And I started thinking, there really is no job security. When you work for yourself, you always will be secure. And I learned that betting on myself was really the best way to go. And so at the age of 35, that's when I started Capano Consulting, and I broke out and I jumped ship and I started my consulting business as a coach, speaker, trainer, doing those things. And honestly, I've never looked back. And it is such a wonderful blend because you do have freedom. No one tells you what you have to do. At the same time, it's very scary because you wear these 2 different hats where you are the CEO, you're the independent contractor, you're the I run the show. And also you have to remember you're still an employee because if you don't show up, the organization is not going to make any money. And for me, it's been really nice because I can still be very regimented and bring all those things together and also still have my creativity and run things the way I want to run them. Because some of the things that I was always challenged with is running things based on somebody else's vision And there were times where what they wanted to do, I just didn't feel were the right things to do. Whether they were right or wrong, I just didn't feel they were right. Now I have sort of that creative control to do the things that I feel are right and are in alignment with my integrity.
I love that. Would you speak a little bit more about when you weren't fulfilled and maybe some burnout that happened in your career and how you knew that was approaching?
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't realize it was approaching until after it had approached, and it was far too late. And there were a lot of warning signs that I should have, paid attention to. And I think, one of the things that I would just get home at the end of the day, and I'm not going to say that I was tired, but I was just blah. I didn't feel invigorated. Now, right now, where I am now, there are weeks where I am speaking 5 days in a row for 10 hours a day, only me. And I get on that plane and I am excited and energized, whereas most people would be like, you must be exhausted. Because again, I feel fulfilled every day. I would come home and I would just be depleted and angry and I just didn't feel purposeful. I felt more like I was, like I said, a piece in somebody else's story, but not my own story. And I'm just a type of person where human connection and knowing that I'm delivering value and having purpose is really important to me, more than a paycheck is. And don't get me wrong, I love money, I love my paycheck, but I need to feel that I'm a part of something. And so I think those were some things that weren't doing it. I had visions of driving to work and praying that I would get into a car accident, not one that would kill me, but one that would just put me in the hospital for a few days where I could rest and nobody would bother me, because the calls would come in and I would see them and I'd be like, oh, I don't want to talk to that person. And, we shouldn't feel that way. We should feel excited to be able to serve the people. Not that every day is filled with rainbows and unicorns, but we should be somewhat excited to go into our days. I didn't want that Monday to come and feel the dread of going back to work on Mondays. When Monday comes now, I'm excited because again, it's a new opportunity to impact lives. So I think those were some of the things of doing that. But the biggest one for me was my son was born when I was 34. I became a single mom at 35. And I found myself in that stage from about 35 to 37, working a full-time job, getting my master's degree, launching my business, and again, being a single mom and all of these. And I remember there was one night. First of all, let's just say I thought I was killing it. I thought I was doing everything because I was getting all my things done, and everything was getting done. And it was at about 7:30 at night. And my son came over to me and he was about 3 at the time. And he just wanted to show me a picture. And I didn't even have time to look at the picture. It was, Mommy will look at that in a few minutes. And lucky for me, he called the shots and he called me out and he's like, Mom, you're not paying attention to me. And it was in that moment that it was like when you see those movies where all of a sudden all the flashback moments come in, and I could see how disconnected I was, how when I was showing up, I wasn't present when I was showing up. I was rushing through everything, phone calls, conversations, because I was like, I got to get to the next thing. I got to get to the next thing. And this vision and this person that I wanted to become, that I thought I was, I had to finally get honest and be like, that was the furthest thing from where I was. I was becoming a person that I didn't want to be. I was not the mom I wanted to be. I was not the daughter I wanted to be. I was not showing up as the leader I wanted to be, and listening to some of the feedback of, she always sounds so busy. We always feel like we're interrupting her. I mean, it broke my heart because I'm like, that's not who I am.
Yeah.
But that was who I was.
Sorry to interrupt.
No,
Was that how you were defining success, was being busy and just being productive and doing more and more and more?
Yeah. So for me, success came at did I check off all the boxes? I remember as a kid, that's how I defined success, was how much can I get done? And the more that I do, the more people are going to see that I'm successful. So it was all about checking off the boxes. I can do one job or I could do 3 jobs. I could have 1 title or I could have 4 titles. It's like all these things. I could work 10 hours or I could work 14 hours. So it was all about what was I doing? And on that chase to do it all, I came up with 2 realizations. One, when you try to do everything, you really can't do anything. And when you try to be there for everyone, you really can't be there for anyone. And it was sort of in those moments that I had, the aha moment for myself. I call it my moment of clarity, and realized that, things have got to change. Mhm.
Unlock the skills to transform your leadership with the Hospitality Leaders Roadmap. Move from ordinary to extraordinary, packed with practical strategies to lead with confidence and create lasting impact in your restaurant. Visit kristenmarvin.com/audio to download your free audiobook today.
Coaches like you are already growing their brands and attracting new clients with professional podcasts. But between scheduling episodes and audio editing, starting a podcast might feel like another thing on your to-do list. At L. Connor Voice LLC, we make podcasting simple and effective, from recording to promotion, so you can focus on your clients. You already have the material. I can turn it into engaging podcast episodes that can boost your brand and expand your reach. Discover how easy it can be to launch your show with us. Schedule a free consultation. Follow my links in the episode notes. Reach out and let's talk.
When you started your journey owning your own business, did you have a framework? Did you know, like, I'm going to be a coach and I'm going to be a speaker and I'm going to do trainings, I'm going to write these books? Because this is something that I struggle with. Like, how do I create these multiple revenue streams in order to keep this sustainable? So that if client work isn't strong, I've got something else to fall back on. Did you know that you wanted to do all those things?
Yes.
Or did they kind of build over time? Okay.
I knew, and they built over time. So I think this is where, again, you have to kind of be honest with yourself and what's the bandwidth that you had to put forward. Being that my son was so young and I was a single mom, I did not want to be on the road. And so I leaned more into the coaching. And if I did trainings, they were more like lunch and learns locally. So I didn't have to be on the road and I could drop him off at school and, do those things. So for me, starting in the coaching realm really worked well because I could do it from home. I had the flexibility if he got sick, all of those things, because again, that was the commitment that I made to myself to be there for him. And then as he got older, I would then tier into more of the training. I would start with 1-day courses and all of those. And then as he became more of a teenager and really didn't want mom around at all, I was able to be on the road a little bit more with the idea that we leveraged technology. So when I would be done teaching at the end of the day, I would be back at the hotel on FaceTime doing homework with him. And now he's 19. So, I can grow it from there. So again, I kind of just, worked it into the necessities of what I could do and feel like I could give my best. I recently have let go of a lot of the one-on-one coaching because I am on the road more, that I wasn't feeling I could be present and give the structure that I feel people need with coaching. So now I do more, group. I have a membership group and do it more on a larger scale. So I think, again, your life is going to ebb and flow, and that's beautiful. I always say we have to be like Madonna. She would always reinvent herself with every new album. We have to reinvent ourselves too as our lives change and as the demands that we need change.
Yeah. How long did it take you to grow the business so that you were in a position where you were comfortable?
Great question. So when I started, I was very fortunate that I had a very nice savings account. I am a saver, so I built that up. So that sort of gave me some time. So for the first 3 months, it was really hard. So for the first 3 months, I went from, making a 6-figure income down to about $25,000. So it was, terrifying. So for the first month, I did all the right activities because that's what I did first is I strategically came up with, if I want this result, what are my non-negotiable activities? What do I need to do? And so I just did those every day. First 30 days, not really anything. Went to the bank, took money out of my savings account, all of that. Second month, I maybe kind of got a little bit of momentum. And it was really by the third month, I would say the fourth month was when I had to stop going to my savings account. Then from there, it started growing and growing and growing. And so it took me, and I would say on average, again, it really depends on the industry that you're in, but I think you need to mentally prepare for a minimum of 6 to 9 months. Again, you're starting a business. And it wasn't necessarily that I was having a lucrative business until probably about 18 months into it. But again, it was, stable. And, I'm a contract worker. I have months where I make a lot of money and I have months where I make nothing. So again, you have to look at these, and I have a lot of seasonality to my business. So, you have to be able to plan for those. And those are all things that you start to learn over the course of time so that you can budget more, and also energetically. Like for me, there's not a lot of trainings, not a lot of conferences that happen in the summer months as they do in the fall and in the first quarter. So for me, I know from September till about February, March, I'm going to be on the road almost every week. I know that I can build up for it. I can get to it so I can power through, because I know from like April to September, it's much lighter for me. So again, those are all things that you start to learn over time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so much like restaurants too. I mean, there's so many businesses out there that are so seasonal, but it's something that a couple of fellow coaches in this space, and I have talked about of that seasonality and that wave. It will never go away. You've got to save when you can, and then that for the next, for me, I've gotten a client or two in a month, and then it's like crickets for 2 months, right? Even though I'm still working the plan and still networking like crazy. I'm curious what some of those. Kudos to you. 3 months is to start bringing in some income is amazing. What were some of those non-negotiables that you were doing those first 90 days?
So one of the things that I do as a non-negotiable, and I still do almost all of these, is every Sunday I have a weekly strategy session with myself. So again, I put the CEO hat on and I look at my whole week and I'm like, okay, what's working, what's not working. I look at the last week so I can carry things that are working in, and then I can really get my targets together and get my schedule together. And I put my schedule together very honestly with the hours of time that I have, because some weeks I have 40 hours a week. Some weeks I have 4 hours a week if I'm going to be on the road. So I start to look at what is the work that I have, what is the hours that I have, and what's the highest and best use of those hours. Every morning, my morning routine is a non-negotiable. I'm an early bird. I'm not saying everybody has to be. And I know in the restaurant industry, some people, they're not getting home until 2 or 3 in the morning. So it's a very different thing. But for me, I get up at 5 a.m. for about my first 90 minutes. It is mindset work, exercise. I'll either take my dog for a walk, or I'll do like a yoga class or Pilates class or something. Getting my coffee, I do my visualization exercises, get all of those. Then I get ready. I like to be at my desk by 7 a.m. So when I'm working from home, even though I only have to walk across the hall, I still get up, I still get dressed, I go to work every day. And then my morning for the first, hour and a half of my morning is a lot of admin work. So that's where I'm doing a lot of email reach outs, kind of going through, getting my social media together. Then I'm available for appointments. Now, appointments could be virtual coffees for networking. It could be available to teach a class, do a podcast or whatever. So from about 9 until about 2 o'clock, I'm sort of available for appointments. Then I, come back and I do kind of like a wrap up. I do follow up, and then from 3 to 4, sort of close out my day. And I'm usually done with my day by about 4 o'clock.
That's awesome. I love that. So structured. So yeah, I have found success too in those weekly strategy sessions, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes of just going, okay, what have I got coming up this week? I did a ton of journaling when I first started after every single conversation I had because I was really trying to teach myself how to sell and sell through connection.
And that's what it is. Going back again to the specifics that I do, like I will do an hour of personal development every day. So whether that's reading, podcast, listening to, whatever, I'm always growing myself. I'm a big believer in handwritten notes. So I do handwritten notes every day. These could be to people that I worked with, people that I met, whatever it is. I love doing those. I think it's a really great way to deliver impact. Again, social media, I do a lot of reach outs. LinkedIn is my primary platform that I use. So I do those. I do, again, virtual coffees. I like to do 3 virtual coffees a week. So again, all of these things, like you said, networking. And the one thing that you and I have in common is this idea of delivering value. And again, building relationships. We don't just go out there with my, hey, you should love me, work with me t-shirt. Yeah. It's like, no, let's build a relationship here. Let me deliver value, because I know if I deliver value, the business will come back.
Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about kind of your business sequence. When did the show come up? When did your first book come into play? What was that like?
Love it. So I've always been a writer. The first book I will say that I wrote was in 6th grade, and it was something about a unicorn, a magical unicorn. So and I would not say it's my best work, but we did that. My first real book was published in 2017, and it's right behind me. It's that one. It's called Find Your Focus, 52 Weeks of Clarity. I love to write. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I started with a blog. And then what I did is I gathered up 52 of my blogs. And the idea is you go through it over the course of a year. So you read the passage and then you journal about how you can implement the lesson into your week. So that's my first one. My second book is a collaboration. It's called Women Who Boss Up. So it's 15 of us sharing our stories. And that came out in 2020. And then my latest book, which is this one over my shoulder, is The Mother of All Success Manuals. And this is a guidebook to working moms, just teaching them how to get out of the stress, the overwhelm, and to find what I like to call work-life harmony. I don't believe in balance. It's all about harmony. So those are those. And then my two shows that I do, I have my sort of podcast streaming TV show called Women Winning Their Way, where I highlight women who are doing things outside of the box and outside of the norm. That started in 2020. COVID was very good to me. COVID helped me get a lot of these projects off the ground. And then I started another one last year, and it's on a bilingual network out of Houston, and it is called Be Productive. So I just interview industry experts about different ways to be productive.
That's awesome. So I've got my first book coming out here in a couple weeks. Talk to me a little bit about, I know it's real. Finally, it's happening. Talk to me a little bit about your expectations for your first book. And did it meet your expectations when it launched?
So my first book I self-published, and I really wanted it more as a calling card. I just felt to give me some clout. I wanted it as a giveaway. So if I went to speaking, it could be a gift that I could give. I just wanted something easy, fun, that people could pick up. And honestly, it did exceed my expectations. I'm not going to say it made me a millionaire by any means, but I mean, people are still buying it and they still love it. And so it really has helped me. The thing that I've done with all of my books is I am part of a foundation called You Are My Light, and we focus on building recovery hubs for survivors of human trafficking and slave labor. Mm-hmm. So for all of my books, the proceeds go to that foundation. So for me, being able to also, when I speak, like last week, I was in San Diego and we had a little impromptu book signing, and I just happened to have a box of the books with me. And I said, listen, they're free. Just donate what you feel you would like to donate. And I left there with over $200 in donations. So, people do want to give. So I love those. Now, for my second and third book, again, I wanted those to be a little bit bigger. Both of them are bestsellers. So that was nice that they are. And they definitely have opened doors and allowed me to, get into conversations. Because I'm just, again, these are sort of my heart. These are my gifts. These are my heart space and, things that I want to do. I just see too many people working too hard. And I just don't feel we need to work that hard. Not that we don't have to work hard, but again, not at the cost of our lives, not at the cost of our relationships, not at the cost of our integrity. And those are lessons that I've learned. You can still work hard, but do it on your terms.
Yeah. How are you defining success today?
So I completely changed it. And this was part of the process that I went through. So rather than checking off the boxes, I do a gratitude practice every day. So I start my day with gratitude and I go into each day with what are 3 things that I'm grateful for. And then I end my day with gratitude by asking myself 3 questions at the end of the day. The first question is, did I show love today? The second one is, did I inspire today? And then the third one is, did I contribute positively to the world today? Because if I can say yes to those 3 things, it was a successful day.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. Well, you have so much value that you're putting out there. And I thank you so much for the work that you're doing and for spending time with me on the show today. Will you, I'm going to put these in the, all of your resources in the show notes, of course, and they're, we talked about it at the beginning of the episode, but will you just kind of give an overview of what resources you have available to anybody that's interested in working with you and then how they can contact you?
Absolutely. So I have a lot of workshops that can be either virtual or in person. I'm getting ready to relaunch an on-demand course called Creating Clarity, and that walks people through the 7 steps of clarity, because the purpose of this is we all get our goals, but if we're not clear on the components to support the goal, such as how does it fit to our vision? How are we going to leverage our time? What are the key activities? Are we living with value? So I help them find clarity behind the goal so that they can achieve the goal. So that's going to be an on-demand course that's launching in November. All my other courses are on there. I have courses on time leverage, on knowing your value, so you're not just taking up space. For those out there that are in women's group, I have a great talk on Lead Like a Lioness for women in business. So they can go and do that. My show, Women Winning Their Way, there are obviously links on the website, but they can find it on the podcast station, Spotify, iTunes. It's also on my YouTube channel, which is Capano Speaking and Training. And I'm really working to grow that. So anybody that would love to go follow the show, rate the show, my goal is to turn that into a #1 show and then have it get picked up by a platform like Netflix or Hulu so that I can travel around the globe and interview these women in person.
I love that. That's amazing. Well, you are inspiring and you are just a absolute beast. Thank you for everything that you're doing for women and business owners and providing clarity. It's been an absolute honor. And please, everybody, go check out Clara's website and utilize her resources. Grab her book, take the courses, hire her for speaking engagements, the whole 9 yards. And that is going to do it for us this week. Please share this podcast with anybody that you know in the industry that could benefit. And we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, everybody.